Okay, so we'll be looking at the various types of moral philosophies that individuals may have, that influences how organizations make ethical decisions. Okay, these textbooks have laid out several types of several philosophies used in business decision. The first one is teleology, and then egoism, utilitarianism, deontology, relativist, virtue ethics, and justice. Okay, just as a summary before we go into each one. Theology is stipulates acts are morally right or acceptable if they produce some desired result, such as realization of self-interest or utility. So basically, it says that an act is ethical if it produces a desired result. What that desired result is can be anything. It could be self-interest, it could be utility. Next is egoism, which defines right or acceptable actions as those that maximize particular person's self-interest as defined by the individual. Okay, so in egoism, whether an act is considered ethical or not ethical depends on and how that act maximizes the person's own self-interest as defined by their own person. Okay, so if an act serves the interest of its owner, then it is considered ethical. Whereas if that action does not maximize the person's self-interest, then that is not and it's not unethical. Okay, so egoism, as the name suggests, is in very individualistic. Okay, and then you have the utilitarianism. It defines right or acceptable actions as those that maximize total utility or the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So basically, in utilitarianism, an act is considered ethical when the most people will get the best good. Okay, the greatest good is achieved, is experienced by the greatest number of people. And then deontology focuses on the preservation of individual rights and on the intentions associated with a particular behavior rather than its consequences. Okay, so in deontology, it focuses on the means, the actions rather than the outcome of the actions. Um, unlike the teleology, which focuses on the result, but deontology focuses on the means, on the actions itself. The next one is relativist. In relativist, it evaluates ethicalness subjectively on the basis of individual or group experience. So, in more simple words, relativist comes from the word relative. It means that ethical or non-ethical is a relative. It is relative to something else. Okay, so it's saying, you can simply say that in relativist, there's no objective there is no objective objective right or wrong. Everything is relative. Okay, and then virtue ethics. Virtue ethics assume what is moral in a given situation is not only what conventional morality requires, but also what the mature person with a good moral character deems appropriate. So basically, virtue ethics is more towards the characteristics, the characteristics of the decision maker, of the person, whether the decision making follows a person who is considered a good person, then that uh, and that good person has several characteristics, and based on that, that action is considered as being moral or ethical. And the last one is justice. It evaluates ethicalness on the basis of fairness, distribution, procedural, and interaction. Okay, so just something is considered as ethical when it promotes fairness in terms of distributive, procedural, and interactional. So in understanding moral values, okay, in understanding moral philosophies, one of the important question is the concept of goodness. How do you define goodness? How do we consider something as being good? Okay, so even in this particular question, philosophically there are various views on it. Okay, in the monists, okay, the monists believe that there is only one thing that is intrinsically good. Okay, there is only one thing that is intrinsically good. And hedonism is the idea that pleasure is the ultimate good and the best moral end involves the greatest balance of pleasure over gain. Okay, so hedonism is a part of monists. A monist generally says that there is only one thing that is intrinsically good, but hedonism has the idea that one particular thing that is intrinsically good is pleasure. Okay, and hedonism has been associated with poor morals, in fact, because when people act just for the sole purpose of satisfying their pleasure, it usually ends up being detrimental to others. Okay, so but it is one view. Okay, um, and there are quantitative hedonists, those who believe more pleasure is better, and there are qualitative hedonists, those who believe it is possible to get too much of a good thing, meaning that um, that having more pleasure is not necessarily better. Okay, the next view with regards to goodness is the pluralist. Okay, pluralist, and they are also often referred to as non-hedonists. They take the opposite position that no one thing is intrinsically good. Okay, whereas monists think that there is only one thing intrinsically good. Pluralists don't think that there is one thing that is intrinsically good. Plato argued that the good life is a mixture of moderation and fit, proportion and beauty, intelligence and wisdom, science and arts, and pure pleasures of the soul. So Plato's assertion or Plato's belief is based on the pluralist. Okay, Plato is an example of the pluralist, that what is meant by good, what is good is that it has several things: moderation and fitness, proportion and beauty, intelligence and wisdom, sciences and arts, and pure pleasures of the soul. Okay, and then there's the instrumentalist. Uh, Instrumentalist rejects the idea that ends can be separated from the means that produce them, and two ends, proposes, or outcomes are intrinsically good in and of themselves. Okay, so there's no ultimate aim, there is no end. Okay, there is no splitting of means and end. Therefore, based on this, when we look at whether an issue is ethical or not, the action itself is not separated from the end, because there are views that say something is considered ethics if the end is good. However, based on instrumentalists, end and means is not separated. Okay, so and they are intrinsically good in and of themselves, and not because of their end is good. Okay, so this is a more modern view. So so generally, some of the moral philosophies theories, they follow the goodness theories. It focuses on the end result of an action and the goodness or happiness created by them. So basically, we can say that the goodness theories, how an issue, an act is considered ethical or not is based on the outcome of the action. Is there good in the outcome? Okay. But obligation theories, on the other hand, they don't look at the end. They don't look at the end. What is the end outcome? But they emphasize on the means and motives for actions. Okay, so if the means is justified, then the ends, the act will be considered as ethical.